Hey everyone, Mario here. I'm going to start this episode off a little bit differently than we normally do because I forgot to include a very special announcement in this last episode. So I'm going to record it before our intro music and let all of you know about something awesome that's going to be happening next month. For those of you that have been following us for a while, you'll know that July 26th is our anniversary of this podcast, which means that we like to celebrate with a live show with all of you, our listeners. Now, if you want to get involved in this live show, you can find the actual live event on our YouTube page, which you can get to by searching for Station 71 Podcast on YouTube or by going to bit.ly/S71Live2, and it'll bring you to the event for our live event, and you can watch it live on our YouTube page where you can ask us questions, we'll play some games, you can get to know us a little bit better. Now, if there's anything you want to hear us talk about, parks-related, host-related, news-related, anything at all, send it to us at station71podcast@gmail.com, where we'll be able to get it through our email and read it then, or you can call our Google Voice line, which you know we introduced last year for the live show, and we'll play that back. It's 561-899-6441. We're going to be taking some live callers on the air, as well as playing back some voice messages. So if you have anything you want to send us, feel free. We'll talk about it on the live show. This is a very special event for us, and last year was a total blast. I really hope that you guys will join us again this year so we can sit down, get to know you a little bit better, and you'll get to know us a little bit better. It's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it. Now, on to what may be potentially my favorite episode that we've ever recorded. Hope you guys enjoy.
Give me a little intro there, Gomer.
There's no turning back now.
Let's put on the show.
You're listening to episode number 88 of the Station 71 podcast. My name is Mario, and this week I'm joined by my co-host,
Brian.
So we've got a really exciting show for you guys this week. We have one of our first ever actual interviews, and it's with someone that Brian and I very much enjoy, Yehaa Bob. But before we dive into that, let's talk about the news. All right, so this week, the first news topic we have is that the Leva Legacy West Side monoliths have been completely destroyed at Epcot. We kind of knew this was coming with the revamp of the Epcot entrance, but they've started making their way through it. That entire side is now blocked off with construction walls. The monoliths have been removed, and they're making their way to pave over them.
Yep. I know a lot of people are big fans of these. It's a bit divisive, I know. Some people didn't like the way they looked at the entrance. I'm pretty excited about the concept art that's showing what it's supposed to look like with the Epcot revamp, so I am looking forward to that. It does not look very good right now.
Yeah, I am excited for the next couple, like, the year or so that Epcot's got ahead of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, this concept art looks great, and I'm really thrilled about that, but it's bizarre how they're doing this. I thought they would have taken them out in smaller chunks because it's like that entire side is now blocked off.
Or the thing that gets me is that if it's going to look ugly, you might as well just take both sides out at the same time and just, get it over with, instead of now we're going to have one ugly side and one good side, and then for a couple more weeks we're going to have another ugly side and a good side. So I don't know.
Could you imagine the awful bottleneck that would create if they walled off both sides?
Well, I mean, I feel like 90% of the people walking into Epcot are coming through that narrow pathway anyways. They're not going in between or around the Legacy Stone. So I mean, it's not great either way, but I figure, I don't know, just bite the bullet, make it the whole entrance ugly, and just get it done as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I can agree with that. I'm interested to see how they go about paving over it, though. Are we going to know that they were there at one point, or Are they just going to start building in that spot?
I'm kind of hoping that they do, they have some kind of like marker or something that is like denotes that they were there at least. I mean, like I said, it wasn't everybody's favorite visual thing when you first walk into Epcot, but what they were was pretty important to a lot of people, especially if you had your own, legacy stone there. So I'm hoping they at least have some, a memorabilia piece to, help people remember that.
Yeah. So next up, it looks like we got some info on the Villains After Hour merchandise and pricing, which started last week. We kind of, I think, maybe briefly touched on this in our last episode. Well, I should go back because we're pre-recording this like 2 weeks out. So we talked about this in the last episode, I think. And we got to look at some of the merchandise, a couple of the t-shirts and stuff. There's a Hades tumbler, a phone case, a couple shirts with all the villains on it. Looks like Hades is definitely the main focus of this event. They're not too bad prices either. The worst one is like $35 for a t-shirt, and that seems to be about average.
Yeah. I don't know about you. I'm not sure if I'm really digging this art on these. I mean, I don't know. It's, I guess, kind of the standard Disney in-park stuff, but I don't know. That coupled with the prices, I feel like if they're only doing these at the after-hours events, then maybe they wouldn't be so much since the event itself is already like a plus cost thing, but I don't know.
I'm all here for like the special shirts and stuff. Like I love when they do shirts for events, even if it's something like Flower and Garden, which you can get every year.
Mm-hmm.
But like I kind of like some of them, like the Hades t-shirt, I think is probably the only one I would buy. I don't think I would buy the one with all of the villains on it, just because that doesn't really catch my attention as much.
Yeah.
But I'm all here for them giving Hercules more love in the park, so
yeah, that's
if they do
sure.
anything for Hades.
Now, one thing that I am not seeing in here that I'm surprised they don't do is a pin. I mean, obviously, I know we're pin collectors, so maybe we're kind of biased on that front,
Right.
but that's always the thing for me. Like, if I go to a special event, I want a pin because that's like 90% of the pins that I get are ones from special events now. So it's like there's a memory tied to it, and I love that about collecting pins. So that's one thing that I really wish they would have for this.
I'm gonna send you a link because I apparently didn't look at the actual Disney press release, which had more merchandise in it.
So
and there are some
there's...
pins.
Yes, all right.
There's a whole set of pins.
Oh boy.
And it looks like pretty much every villain has their own pin.
Oh, that's cool then. Let me see. I just got your link. Maybe. Possibly.
And what's funny about this too, I mean, I don't know if this is like merchandise that's in the park all the time. I feel like I've seen some of this stuff, like some of the stuff that wasn't in the original article. Like this poison apple mug, I've definitely seen that other places.
That is definitely
the
in the
Maleficent
park.
headband. Yeah. The pins, I don't think I've seen.
I'm actually... That one in the bottom with Cruella de Vil, I'm almost positive I have seen before. But I can't say 100%.
Maybe they're just cycling them in like greater quantities.
Possibly. But I am glad to see this, that there is a little bit more stuff than what the other article was showing. So, yeah, I mean, I know this isn't one of their, big events. I mean, it's not on the same scale. It's not so scary or very merry or anything like that. So I can't expect them to have, special merchandise in that kind of quantity. But I would like to see maybe a little bit more.
Yeah. The one thing that I really wish that I would get to see from this is just the Maleficent dragon float at night. That is the only thing I really care about. And then it looks like the last thing on our news topics for this week is that there's a new limited time Get Your Ears On ticket available for Florida residents this summer. The Get Your Ears On tickets provides 3 and 4 day options for as low as $55 per day for a 4-day ticket, which would normally be around $219. The 3-day pass totals at 200 plus tax, which is less than 67 per day, and then the 4-day is 219, which is, like I said, $55 per day plus tax. This is a limited time thing that's only going to run for a couple days through the summer, it looks like. It's really cool to see that maybe they're just trying to pull more people in when it might get a little bit slower.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great deal, and we don't say that a lot when Disney releases new ticket pricing info, but this is a seriously good deal. $55 a day if you get the 4-day one. I mean, that's less than half of a normal ticket price. And yes, you're going during non-peak times, but if you're a Florida resident and have that option to be a little bit more flexible about when you go, then yeah, I mean, this is a no-brainer. If I wasn't an annual pass holder, I would definitely get this.
And just for our listeners that think that they might be able to game the system, I'm just going to tell you right now, I clicked on the link that's in this article, which is disneyworld.com/get-your-ears-on. And the first thing that it does when you click on it is it brings up this big white box that says offer for Florida residents only. And it tells you need a Florida billing address and you need to show proof of ID at the park entrance.
Yes, you do.
So just a heads up, that is a thing that is going to happen if you did decide to buy these tickets. But great deal if you can make it work.
Yeah, just a note on that. That is one thing that Disney is actually pretty strict about, is the Florida resident only deals definitely being only for Florida residents. Even when me and my wife first moved down to Florida, one of the first things we wanted to do was get our Disney passes, but we didn't have Florida IDs or driver's license at the time. So we were trying to go in there, and we had to bring all kind like a bill, a thing signed from our apartment complex that we actually lived there and everything, because we hadn't had because that was obviously our highest priority thing when we moved to Florida, was not to get our IDs changed over, it was to get our annual passes as quickly as possible. But just so you know, yes, it is, I will say, pretty much impossible to try to game the system and get in there without a Florida resident ID. It ain't gonna work.
Yeah. And just to touch on how good of a deal this is, the actual Disney website has the total price for the 4-day Get Your Ears On tickets and the 4-day Florida resident. Like I said before, 4 days is $219 plus tax. The 4-day Florida resident flexible date ticket is $339 plus tax. Mm-hmm. So really big savings there.
Yep.
So I guess that's going to do it for the news this week. We're going to do some weird magic time jump editing, and we're going to cut to our interview with Yehaa Bob.
Because we're doing this in the future.
So Brian and I have a very special guest on this week. We are super excited to have Yehaa Bob Jackson from the River Roost at Port Orleans Riverside. How's it going tonight, Bob? Oh.
171 podcast. 71 podcast. We love you. 71 podcast. We love you. 71 podcast. We love you.
Oh man.
Oh
man.
Goodness.
I didn't know we were going to get the whole show on tonight too.
I am super excited to have you here. Brian and I are huge fans. We've talked about this a lot on our show, that we love Port Orleans. It's my favorite resort to stay at when I'm down there. And every vacation that we go on, we have to make a point to come visit Bob and his show. Hey, Bob, what should our listeners expect when they come to the River Roost to check you out?
Mario, thank you. First of all, I want to thank you both of you, for inviting me onto your show. It's my pleasure to be here, and it's my passion to be performing there at Port Orleans Riverside. I've been performing there at that little resort for more than 22 years, if you can imagine. I've been pacing that little stage for more than 22 years, and I just love it. And if anybody wants to come out to my little show, you're more than welcome. Kids are welcome all night long. It's a family show. It's an audience participation show, and we just love kids, love families, and we love to sing along, and we love Disney. So we invite everybody out to Port Orleans Riverside.
Nice. So you have a lot of audience participation in your show. I know we kind of maybe have touched on this before, but how do you keep your energy going all night long? Because we were talking about this before we invited you on. Brian got the chance to check you out over the weekend again, and you just seem to have an endless amount of energy. It's absolutely insane how you go all night.
I walk in that show every night, and I say to myself, this could be the last night, and I'm going to do my very, very best show. And I get on that stage, and I want to put on my very best show, and I just put the pedal to the metal, and we just go for it every night. Walt Disney had a saying, give the people everything you can, and that's what I do. That's my motto, and I just go for it every night.
It's great. I mean, like Mario was saying, me and my wife got to go see you again this past weekend, and it's so great to be able I mean, like, as a audience member, you feel like you're a part of the show because of how much energy you create and how much you just involve everyone there in the actual show. It's just fantastic.
Well, thank you. It's my passion. I love to entertain. I love families. I love people, and I'm just glad you guys came out to the show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It will not be our last either.
Good. Just keep on coming. It's a great show, and people, I want to invite everybody to come on out, and it's just a lot of fun.
Now, do you have any favorite parts of your show? Is there anything that you really love about doing the show at Port Orleans?
I do. I've got a couple favorite things. Before I start the show and between shows, I try to get to every table, and I love to meet everybody and see where they're from and talk to them about what's going on, and try to include people into the show. And it's my passion to be a part of it all. I love to entertain, and it's all great.
Definitely can tell from watching your show that this is something you're super passionate about. Is there anything like particular during your show that you love? Like, are there any songs that you love to play, or you kind of have some little bits that you do here and there, anything like that is something that you absolutely love about your show?
I love to include people in the show, and we do a lot of sing-along. We do a lot of Disney singing. And it's just fun. I love the kids. When we've got a bunch of kids, it's just fun to watch the expressions on their faces as they march around the room, as they sing along, as they get their parents up on stage to do ridiculous things. It's just been a ball over the last 20 years to include families and friends. I've got young people coming back now with their families. It's funny I'll meet these young people in their 20s and 30s that were there when they were children, and now they're bringing their kids back. And I'll have generations in the house. And it's fun to watch them all sing along and participate, and it's just a big hoot.
It really is.
So, do you have any like highlights from your years at the River Roost? Anything that stands out when you think back on all the time that you've spent there? Like any special performances, or any special guests that you've had in the audience?
I've had a lot. I'll get famous people in there, but they're really not my focus. The people that I'm focusing on are the people that need uplifting, the the people that need to be uplifted in their lives. I love kids, and there's been so many special moments in that show. I mean, I could go on for hours, the ridiculous things that have happened, funny things, but mostly I enjoy just watching the people have fun, the families, the kids, the expressions on their faces. Every night is just a fun night.
I don't know how you could walk away from that performance without a smile on your face.
Yeah, it's just a big hoot.
Now, how did you get started at Port Orleans? Was this where you wanted to be at, or were you working for the company beforehand and just ended up here?
My wife and I we were living abroad. We were living in mostly of Northern Europe. We were living in Norway, Finland, and Sweden. And our son was 3 years old. We were in Norway, and my father called and said we needed to settle down. We were traveling. We were itinerant musicians, and Dad said they were auditioning musicians in Orlando, and we moved to Orlando. One thing led to another, and I auditioned out there at Disney. I've played all the parks. When I first started, I started out at the Magic Kingdom. I was at the Diamond Horseshoe.
Oh wow!
Yeah, this is way back in the early '90s when they had a big show, and I started as a sub there. And I went one of the band members there. I was working in a place called Rosie O'Grady's, which was in downtown Orlando. And the trumpet player was there at the Diamond Horseshoe. So I got into the Diamond Horseshoe as a sub, and I started there. That's where was my first Disney experience, way back in probably 1992, 93. And one thing led to another, and I was playing at a big piano bar, blazing pianos, and one of our subs was playing there at Port Orleans Riverside. He said, "Bob, I'm leaving. I'm going out to New Orleans, and this job will be open." So I auditioned there at Port Orleans Riverside, and I got that job. And at the time, it was a real sleepy little bar. It was a holding room for the dining room. It wasn't a showroom at all. Nothing was going on there in this little bar, and I thought I could really turn it into something. So I started there at Port Orleans Riverside, and I turned this little sleepy bar into this big showroom, and it's just been a fun experience for the last 22 years.
That's awesome. So when you came in, how much influence and decision making did you get to make with setting up the show? I mean, did Disney basically say, "Hey, you run this and see how it goes"? Did they have input? Was it collaborative?
No, they left me completely alone. I was just an anonymous little piano player in this tiny little sleepy little bar, and one thing led to another. I'd come from a dueling piano situation where, I don't know if you've ever been to a dueling piano where you get everybody involved in a room. And I just moved into that room and just turned it into this big monster kind of a thing.
Awesome. So where did you come up with some of the ideas for like your song list or having the rockin' piano and everything?
Well, the rocket piano has been going on for 150 years from New Orleans. All the old piano players, you just rock it, you just push it with your knee. It's a visual thing, if you've never seen my show, I'm sitting at an upright piano, and this thing is bouncing back and forth, and you just push it with your knee. It's not a big deal. And guys have been doing this. Fats Domino. I mean, you look at some of these old videos, and guys have been doing this it's nothing that I came up with. Guys have been doing it for 150 years. So I'm pushing this piano with my knee, and as far as coming up with the show, I like to do a sing along. I like to do a sing along show, and I never really did a lot of Disney music until I had John Lasseter start coming out to my show, and he would come out, sit he would sit. This guy would come out and sit in the front. He would sit in the very first seat. He'd pull his chair up to the front, and I wasn't doing any Disney music, and all of a sudden I had all these big shot Disney people from California, from everywhere. I mean, and I wasn't doing. You can't believe the security and the people that were hanging around, and it dawned on me that I wasn't doing any Disney songs at all. So I went on this Disney song binge, and it's just been a real blessing. I can't believe how many people know the lyrics to so many Disney songs and the history and the songwriters. And so I had to really develop a Disney show. I wasn't doing a Disney show at all until probably about 14 years ago. And then all of a sudden it just dawned on me. So off we go. And now I'm so thankful to be doing a Disney show because the songs are timeless. And people come in and, everybody knows the lyrics to these songs. And it's just been such a blessing. And last year I was invited out to Marceline, Missouri. And I performed at Walt Disney's childhood home. And I was right there at his house. And I was invited into his home. It's a private residence now. And I got to be invited into his home and up to his bedroom of all ridiculous things. And I mean, it's just a crazy scene. Every night when I'm in there, the first thing I do is I hang this picture up of Walt. I had no idea. I was awarded back in 2013 this Legacy Award, and they gave me this picture of Walt. So every night I hang this picture of Walt up. And there I was last year in Walt's house, of all places. Every night I go in, I say, Walt, I hang this picture. I would say, Walt, okay, Walt, we're going to put on our best show tonight. Walt, I'm going to do my very, very, very best. And then last year, there I was at Walt's house. I can't believe it. I was at Walt's house. So it's just been such a big hoot to be a part of all of this.
That's awesome.
That is really cool.
So speaking of including Disney songs in your routine, we noticed when we went to your last performance that you're also doing, classics, but also some fairly recent Disney songs that come out. How often do you try to incorporate new songs into your show?
Well, as awesome as let me back up. First of all, I was a music composition major in college. So I love to play. I've always been involved in classical music. I practice every day. I practice my finger exercises, my Bach, my Mozart, Debussy. And as far as incorporating new songs into the show, I'm looking for new songs. I'm always looking for new songs. If anybody listening tonight to this podcast they can't be slow. No, we don't do slow songs. But I'd like to find some new songs. There's this new Aladdin movie, anything that I'm already doing the old Aladdin music. But anybody's got any ideas, just email me because I'm always looking for more songs to incorporate in the show.
Do you have a favorite song that you play during your show?
A couple. I would have to say that one from Aladdin. Let's see. I've got a couple of songs. I'm the king of the swingers. Jungle VIP. You like it? I love that one, and I love. I love that one. So I'm doing those tunes, and if you think of some songs, you let me know.
Nice. Now I know you kind of said you didn't incorporate Disney songs in your early shows. Were you a fan of Disney at all, like the parks or the movies, prior to working for the company?
You guys are so young. I grew up in the 1960s and 1970s. I grew up watching Walt Disney and the Mouseketeers, and I grew up watching all that music. So I've been a Disney fan for all my life.
So I don't know how often you go into the parks. Do you have a favorite attraction in the parks at all?
Well, I've got two children, and they grew up around that show. And while they were little, we'd go to the parks all the time. But now, I rarely go to the parks. If I've got a night off like tonight, I'm simply going to sit home and try to recover from this ridiculous week I had. I had a crazy week at the Port Orleans. I'm looking forward to getting out there and seeing that new Star Wars business. So.
Yeah, that's really exciting. We've been kind of keeping our eyes very closely on that one. One question that I had was, a lot of times people talk about like the magic that they've made for for other guests in the park. Like when we talk to cast members, is there a time that anyone's made your show or your night more magical outside of like the normal just audience participation stuff?
Every night, and I'm not just blowing smoke here. I've got all these special needs people that come to the park. I've got people suffering with cancer. I've got people that have lost family members that come. Every night is a very special night for me there.
Now, I know your website says that you've also done work with Give Kids the World. That's something that we've talked about a couple times on here. Is there, like, do you have any memories that you want to share about Give Kids the World and that organization?
I'm there at least once a month, and I've been performing out there probably. It's volunteer. It's an hour's drive from where I live. It's way down south in Kissimmee. And once I started down there, it was a tiny little place, and now it's grown. But I'll go down there at least once a month to perform, to volunteer my time, and some nights it's a big night, some nights it's a smaller night, but every night's a special night there at Give Kids a World. It's an interesting place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know we've talked about this on the show before, but it really is. It's a great organization. So, anybody that's listening to this that wants to help out with either donations or volunteering time, definitely look into do it. It's a great place.
Well, I want to invite everybody to visit my little website. I don't update it very often, but I try to keep it updated. And Facebook and all those places, I'm kind of backing away from social media, but you can try to keep up with me. And I love to record. I'm working on more original music all of the time. I love to write music. And so I want to invite everybody, just, try to keep up with me. And I want to thank the boys, Mario and Brian, and everybody. Station 71 Night Podcast, we love you. Station 7 Podcast, we love you. Station 171 Podcast, we love you. We love you, yes we.
Woo!
Then that's going to do it for us this week. Thanks for joining us again on another episode of the Station 71 podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from. If you want to be a part of the show, reach out to us on our website at www.station71podcast.com, where you can find links to all of our social media, our email address, and our brand new Google Voice line where you can leave us a voice message. Have anything you want to hear us talk about, we'd be happy to discuss that on the next episode. We hope you enjoyed your ride, and we'll see you real soon.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.